Alright, this video today is going to be on disassembling the bolt of the Ruger American Rifle. Now, I've had my Ruger for just about a year now, and this whole time it never occurred to me how to take apart the bolt, and I've tried contacting the company themselves. I've talked to a couple of gunsmiths. They all said talk to the company. The company said don't disassemble it. If it needs service, send it in. I say BS. If you want to take it apart, polish the dual cocking cams, you know, with the firing pin and all the insides of it, polish your bolt, you know, refinish it, something, I'd say why not? Alright, so this is how we do it. First off, as you can see, I've heavily modified my Ruger. This is a 30-06. It's the Ruger American long action. I still got a lot of work to do to it, but the part we're going to be focusing on is the bolt. And at first I did a little bit of work to it, just polished the handle, the body of the bolt, but you can only do so much without fully disassembling it. So give me just a second to set the camera up and get the bolt out and get this started. Alright, as always, make sure that your firearm is unloaded. Check the chamber. And then to release the bolt, there's a button right here on the left side for right-hand guns. Push it, pull the bolt out, bolt comes right out. Set the gun off to the side. What's left is this. Now the first part is always the easiest part. It's the furthest they tell you to disassemble the bolt. What you do is you take this right here and you give it a turn to where it's right in the center of the bottom of the bolt handle. Then should just be able to slide it off of there. There. Might take some fidgeting, but it comes off. Alright, next is the part that they don't want you to do. There's a pin right here, so you can see. There's a little pin that you have to drive out, and then this piece here you grab with a pair of vice grips and you pull this way with it as you rotate it, just like taking off a bottle cap or a screw or something. So let me get a punch, and the one I use is a 1/16 inch, and it just makes it easier. And it helps to snap it back into a locked position so it can't move. Then it's okay to work on. And notice how I drove it toward the table so that way it didn't fly across the room. And that's all that holds that retaining, or it's the retaining pin for the screw. And you want to get yourself a pair of pretty sturdy vice grips. Set them, and then grip it. Grip it right there. And then what you do is you pull back, and it separates, and then you turn it. And you just keep going like that until it loosens up. You'll see it start to loosen up after a moment. Now, this may not be the correct way to do it, but it's the way that I do it, and it seems pretty straightforward. As you can see, it's already separating. There we go. Separating right here good 1/8 inch gap right there. And then if you look, you can see right through here. And that shows you that you're doing what you're supposed to. Or not supposed to, according to Ruger. And once you get toward the end of the screw, it'll start making it easier. You won't have to lift toward the end so much. And I'm about at that point where you just barely have to lift. And then at this point you can just, and then you just remove, once it spins freely, just remove the vice grips, take it by hand, and take it off. Now what I did is I polished the underside of that. I just figured to make it a little smoother. Polish as many surfaces as I can that contact something else other than, you don't want to polish this surface here with anything really other than extremely fine grit. But even then you want to be extremely careful with it, because this and this set your headspace. And as you can see, this is from a previous attempt to try to take it apart. I figured it was like some of the other bolt actions where you stick a dime or something underneath there and you can turn it, but that's not the case. Okay. Now this part is a little tricky. The way this works is you have to grip it with the vice grips, and you want to set it kind of loose because it's kind of a fragile piece. You put your thumb on the bolt, and then you want to turn and push in at the same time, and it'll pop like that. And there's your firing pin spring, and the back of the firing pin. Just set those off to the side. And then you'll notice your handle's wanting to slide loose. Now, it didn't really take me any time to figure out how this goes back in, because I wouldn't really pay attention the first time I did it. But if you want, you can take a Sharpie and mark there, and then it'll tell you that this side is the front. Yeah. Then you take that out, and that, you can replace it, or, bend it somehow, chop it off, add another bolt handle for, I don't know, a tactical rifle. Personally, I didn't see any point to it. Okay, and then you can see all the way down in there. And then if you wanted, you could take a 12 gauge bore brush and get down in there and scrape it out, if it's that bad, if you've never cleaned it before. Okay, now time for the extractor and the firing pin. This is extremely tricky. It took me about 20 minutes just to get the extractor. Okay, this pin right here, this roll pin, has to come out to release the ejector. And the way you do it is instead of coming from this side, you turn it from the extractor side, and you drop your punch in there, and then you'll lay it down like that, and then just tap it. And you want to be careful. You want to make sure you keep, down pressure on the pin, on the punch, so that the pin doesn't go flying. But once you get to this point, you rotate it a little bit, just give it baby taps. And then once it comes out, go ahead and tap this through, set your pin off to the side in a safe place, and leave the punch in. Trust me. Then you take it and you put it face down on your work surface, and then push down on the bolt body and slowly release the punch. And then lift up. Just grab a pair of tweezers, and there's your extractor, or your ejector. Sorry. Set that off to the side. And then, mine didn't come out the first time. I had to, tap it on the table. But that's your ejector spring. Then comes the really annoying part. This is just held in here, as I found out the hard way, by spring tension. It slides. It can slide forward, or it can slide in or out. The way I did it the first time, I had my hand over it like this, and then I pushed in, and you gotta watch it because there's a detent ball in there that will go flying, and it is devilishly hard to find. Okay, so here goes this. You just want to take it and just cup your hand over it and push. And it'll feel like it's not going to want to go, but it will. And there goes the ball. Excuse me while I find that. Alright. Okay. Where'd my tweezers go? There. Okay. See? And it's really hard to hold on to. But yeah, that's all you're looking at right there. You can see why there's a problem. But as you can see, the extractor spring is a fair bit shorter than the ejector spring, so you can't really mix them up at all. And then you'd be able to true up the face of your bolt if it was at that point, if you really shot it a lot, do whatever. But at this point, your bolt is completely stripped. Do with it what you please. I kind of polished mine a while back, but it didn't really stick because right here is where the bolt release contacts. Like here and here is where the bolt release will contact the bolt body. But yeah, just a note, if you decide to polish this channel right here, be very careful of this area. This is where your serial number is. You don't want to polish that off. I almost did, but it could cause some problems later. Okay, so here's how we reassemble the bolt. What you want to do is take the extractor spring, put it back in there, and you're not going to be able to see this next part because it's extremely difficult to do as is, without shooting. But basically what I do is I take the detent ball and I'll put it on top here, right? And then I'll take the tweezers and a pretty big punch, like 3/16 or 1/4 inch, and then you push. 3/16 is about the biggest you can get in there though, and you push straight down on the ball and you hold that in place. And then while you hold that, you get your tweezers. You get your tweezers and you push, and it'll take the place, and you can hold that down, and then you'll have your extractor, which is this tiny little piece of metal right here. And there's two sides to it. You can see there's like a little shelf on it. My camera doesn't want to focus, but you can see there's a shelf on it right there on both sides. That will, and there's a cup in the bottom of it that'll face down to capture the detent ball. But basically, when you do that, I like to drop it in there beforehand. Then you'll just, and it sounds simple, but it's not. You just slide this with your tweezers still on, and the facing the right way, of course. Okay. And there's that, right there. Oh, losing all kinds of stuff today. Got it. Okay. What I was trying to show you is that there is a cup to it right here that will face the firing pin slot right there. That'll face that. So basically, when you get it in there, if you are brave enough to do this, it'll be detained like that, and you'll push, and then at the same time you'll wiggle the extractor in, and then once you get it to there, you're set. The ball will automatically index where it goes, and you want to be careful not to push it too far, otherwise you'll have to start over, and that is a huge pain. So excuse me just a moment while I put my extractor back in. There. And then it takes a minute to get it lined up, which is why I was having a little issue. But once you get it lined up, you'll feel it, and then you just want to wiggle it, and it'll sit right into it. It'll seat itself. And the rest of this is easy. That by far is the hardest part of this. Okay. And then you just want to take your ejector spring, drop it back in, and it'll slide to the bottom. And then take your ejector, and this little cutout right here, this little cutout right there that you see, is it's for the spring detent, or sorry, the roll pin to detain it. Okay, that's where the ejector goes, and it'll go there like that. See, the difference about the way we're going to do it this time is we can't push it down to the work surface because it has to go even further down. It has to go flush to this surface here. So if you look, you can see right through there, and you can see that spring is in the way. And you can also see that my ejector is just about lined up. So what you want to do is get that 3/16 punch we used earlier, and you want to push it down, making sure you miss the edge, okay? And then you're going to get your smallest punch or a finish nail or something and drop it in that little hole to contain the spring. But you don't want to drop it from this side. You want to drop it from this side over here so we can drive it out. I'll show you what that looks like in just a sec. There's your ejector right there, and then this is pushed through the opposite side of it, so that way we can get the pin and drive it through this way, and it'll be set into place. So you want to pull this back to where it's just below the surface. Then you take your you can see that these pins look almost exactly alike. That's because they are. They're exactly the same thing. So they're kind of interchangeable, unless you are that anal about it. Don't worry about mixing them up. And then once you get it set into place, drive it home. Just give it a few taps from your hammer. And it's locked into place. And you want to be careful about that. I didn't mention that, but whenever you put your pin, whenever you start to drive it through, you want to push the back end of the punch against yourself so that it doesn't fly out, because the ejector will go just as far as the detent ball. And you just want to drive this flush to the lowest surface, which you can see right there. You can barely see it, but that's all you need. It's fully supported. Alright, now then, the way this goes back is that the way you want to start assembling, the way you want to look at it is with the groove for the release button, the bolt release groove right here. This will go 6 o'clock position. Your bolt handle will go like this relative to the 6 o'clock position of the bolt body. Make sure the handle of the ball is down, because if you do it like this, you're going to have a funky looking thing. You'll have, issues operating it. But basically, you just drop it back into its slot and let it sit. And that's what it looks like right there. I don't know if you can see down that. But then you take, after you've lubed the spring, firing pin and such, it just goes straight down, and that'll sit like that, and you can see the bolt handle still moves. Well, this takes care of that, and you noticed I'll show you. You notice that it's got the cutout in the middle for the firing pin. And then these, on either side of it, are for these lugs here. So you can see that fits pretty well. It fits pretty well right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop it down until it seats, and then we're going to rotate 90 degrees, because that will lock it into place. And you can see there's a spot for its lock. There's 2 little cutouts right there. So let's get this put back together. And just make sure that whenever you are lubricating, you use very minimal amounts, because you do not want this to gum up. Then you'll have to take it apart again, you'll have to deal with that horrible turning of the knobs and stuff. But after it gets to this, it goes just like this. This drops down, and then it'll snap in like that. And then what you want to do is get your vice grips, and then you want to grip it, push, and then rotate. You want to push it all the way down, and then all the way down, and then rotate. And then you'll hear it'll do that. But yeah, you have to go all the way flush to the surface of the cams in order to do that. And then you can release this, and you're almost done. Then you take this, which is the cocking cams, and you can go in and clean this surface and this surface. And what I did with my bolt body is I polished the raceways. I don't know if you can see that, but I polished that right there and that right there. I'll have a video on that later. But yeah, on both sides. So, and I also polished the surface right here. And that just makes it a smoother ride. Alright. So there's no real trick to this. You just take it and you start threading it, and then once it gets to the point where you need the vice grips, you just get your vice grips, clamp onto that same position as before, and then you'll just keep rotating and rotating. And what you want to do, what you're looking for, is the top of that firing pin to come up into here. And you'll see it when it comes up. And you can over tighten this. Don't. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And the way you know that you're done, if you can't tell by the top of the firing pin, is the cams will be seated at the bottom of the valleys on their runways. And you can see it's starting to protrude right there at the top. And you want it to contact this top surface up here. You want it to contact it, the bottom side of this, right here. That ensures a very sturdy connection. And you may have noticed there was a gap in the top of it, about 1/8 of an inch from the end of it, of the firing pin on this side. And that is for this retention pin. Okay, you can see right through there. Maybe. There we go. You can see right through there that I am essentially good to go. And this pin is a nasty little beast to put in. Actually, as you can tell, I'm not good to go because it still wiggles. So if you still have a gap, take it all the way down. Got a little ahead of myself. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now you can see there's virtually no play in it. So what you want to do is just drop this in, and then take your hammer and just, and then once it gets to this point here to where it's just barely sticking up, because it's not supported on this side yet, what you want to do is take a slightly bigger one, punch, lay it over on the end of the table like this, the bolt, and then just drive it home with a few good taps. And then just make sure that it is evenly positioned. And then to put the bolt shroud back on, you want to go ahead and grab your vice grips again, and then you just rotate until you're in the center of the back of the bolt handle, roughly. And then if you're looking at it like this, you want to be looking at the bolt shroud. It's a little crappy piece of plastic that hides the innards. And you just want to slide it under to the bottom, and it'll slide in position. And then you want to rotate it that way. Nope, my mistake. The other way. Rotate it the other way. There. Okay. And the way you know that you're set is that the back of the cocking cams are out, is sticking out. And then you can always double check and make sure your firing pin isn't extruded or protruding. Then wipe down, oil, clean oil, do whatever, do all that, and then go back to your rifle. And the way I got to do mine, since it's modified back here, I have to flip it completely upside down. So whenever I insert it, it goes like this. And then I can rotate, and you can hear it lock into place. Then you just shift it forward. And then you want to function test. And then make sure it rides smooth. And that's pretty much how you do it. Thanks for watching.